Mr. Cooper's Super, Part 4.
We'll probably have a substitute teacher for a few days, said Andrea, who thinks she knows everything. Mr. Klutz will need a little time to hire a new teacher. Teachers get hired? I asked. Does that mean they get paid too? Of course teachers get paid, dumbhead, said Andrea. I wanted to say something mean to Andrea, but I couldn't come up with anything beside, "So's your face." I didn't know that teachers got paid. I thought they just came to school every day because they had nowhere else to go. "Maybe Miss Daisy will become our teacher again," said Emily, all excited. Miss Daisy was our teacher in second grade. She was a good teacher except for the fact she couldn't read or write or do math. Come to think of it, she was the dumbest teacher in the history of the world. "Her name isn't Mrs. Daisy anymore," Andrea said. "She got married, so now her name is Mrs. Daisy. When ladies get married, they go from Miss to Mrs. And sometimes they go from Miss to Ms., and nobody knows why. But our new teacher wasn't going to be Miss Daisy, and it wasn't going to be Mrs. Daisy, and it wasn't going to be Ms. Daisy either, because the most amazing thing in the history of the world happened. You'll never believe who ran into the door at that moment. It was a guy wearing a superhero costume. He ran right into the door. Then he fell into the classroom, slammed into the teacher's desk, and toppled over onto the floor. "Ow!" the guy moaned. "I think I may have broken my leg." We all ran to the front of the class to help the guy up. "Are you Superman?" Alexia asked. "No," he replied. "I am Cooperman." Chapter 6. Mr. Cooper is Super. Cooperman told us to sit in our seats. I guess his leg wasn't broken after all, because he limped and he hobbled over to the whiteboard. He wrote this on it in big letters: Mr. Cooper. "Are you a real superhero?" asked Ryan. "Of course I am," Mr. Cooper said. "Can't you see my cape?" Superheroes always wear capes. Nobody knows why. You never see regular people walking down the street wearing a cape. What's up with that? Capes are cool. At that point, Mr. Klutz came into the classroom. "Ah, Mr. Cooper, I'm so glad you were able to find your room. I'm going to introduce you to the children, but it looks like you've already done that. Kids, Mr. Cooper will be your new teacher. From now on, you are under his supervision." "Wow, Mr. Cooper has supervision," I shouted. "Can you actually see through walls?" "Of course," Mr. Cooper said, "especially walls that have windows in them." "Well, I have to go to a meeting," Mr. Klutz told Mr. Cooper. "I'll stop back here later to see how you're making out." "Oh, gross!" Everybody started choking and gagging because Mr. Klutz said, "making out." As soon as Mr. Klutz left, Mr. Cooper picked up a math book from Mr. Granite's desk. Oh, no. It looked like he was going to teach us math. I thought that after Mr. Granite was gone, we'd never have to learn math again. Bummer in the summer. If a grown-up is about to say something you don't want to hear, you should change the subject as soon as possible. That's the first rule of being a kid. But I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. I had to think fast. Do you really have real superpowers?" I asked Mr. Cooper. "Of course I do," he replied. "I wouldn't be much of a superhero if I didn't have superpowers." "Can you fly?" asked Andrea. "Sure I can fly," said Mr. Cooper. "Ooh, show us!" everybody started shouting. "Well, I only fly on Wednesdays," said Mr. Cooper, "and today is Thursday." "Can you be invisible?" asked Alexia. "Well, of course." "Prove it!" we all shouted. "I already did," said Mr. Cooper. "Before I came in the door, you didn't see me, did you?" "No." "That's because I was invisible." "He's right," I shouted. "Do you have super strength?" asked Ryan. "Can you bend steel bars with your bare hands?" "Ha! That's easy peasy," said Mr. Cooper. but I wouldn't want to ruin a perfectly good steel bar. Do you have heat vision? Asked Michael. Can you, burn things up just by looking at them? Of course, said Mr. Cooper. But why would anybody want to do that? It'd be cool. It'd be a cool way to cook hot dogs, I said. Or you could toast marshmallows with your eyes. I never thought of that, said Mr. Cooper. But I will show you another superpower I have. I can make you think of anything I want you to think about. What? We all said, no way. You can't do that, said Neil. Nobody tells me what to think about, said Alexia. Fine, said Mr. Cooper. Don't think of an enormous pink elephant right here in this classroom. Okay, I won't, I said. And this enormous pink elephant is wearing a tutu, said Mr. Cooper. Everybody laughed. It'd be funny to see an enormous pink elephant wearing a tutu. And the elephant is holding a little umbrella, and it's singing, John Jacob Jingleheimer Smith, said Mr. Cooper. I can make you think about that in your head. I tried not to think about an enormous pink elephant wearing a tutu and holding a little umbrella while it's singing, John Jacob Jingleheimer Smith. But it was impossible. In fact, all I could think about now was an enormous pink elephant wearing a tutu and holding a little umbrella while it sang, John Jacob Jingleheimer Smith. Here's the pink elephant with the little umbrella. I'm thinking about it, said Andrea. I can picture it in my head. Me too, said Emily. I can't help it. The whole class was thinking about an enormous pink elephant wearing a tutu and holding a little umbrella while it's singing, John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. And so are you now, I bet. He did it, shouted Michael. Mr. Cooper can make people think of anything he wants. It's amazing, said Alexia. See, said Mr. Cooper, I told you I have superpowers. He really is a superhero, said Ryan. Mr. Cooper is super. If you ask me, Mr. Cooper is weird.